Welcome to our session, the Innovation Accelerator, Forging a Path for Equitable Learning. I'm Shayla Rexrode, an Education Solution Architect at Lenovo.
And I'm Delia DeCourcy, a Global Education Solutions Manager at Lenovo. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Before we dive in, we'd like to pose a question and ask that you respond in the chat. What does educational continuity look like for you and the students you serve? At Lenovo, we recognize that education continuity can have different meanings depending on your role in education. But for many children, continuity means school.
We're excited to share some of the lessons learned for creating educational continuity during this global disruption. And we believe these lessons can provide a roadmap for the future of teaching and learning. Throughout the keynote, we hope you'll use the chat feature to share your questions and comments. There will be time at the end of our session to address as many questions as possible.
Despite the setbacks the global education community has experienced due to COVID-19, teachers, instructional leaders, and higher education have innovated at an accelerated pace in an effort to provide students and families with educational continuity. Whether the learning is happening remotely, in a hybrid environment, or in person, educators have risen to the challenges they and their students have faced. We'll share stories from the UK, Italy, and the United States that reflect the relentless determination to meet the needs of every student every day.
Since March 2020, the number of students around the world whose educational experience has been impacted by the pandemic has increased at an alarming rate. At the height of the crisis, over 1.5 billion learners were affected by school closures. This interactive map provided by UNESCO shows the global evolution of school and university closures since COVID-19 hit. Countries in purple denote full school closure, while countries in pink indicate partial opening. Those in light blue are fully open, while dark blue indicates countries on academic break.
According to UNICEF, the pandemic is affecting more primary learners than any other grade band, and these are the students who need the most support when it comes to remote learning. Some countries have started to reopen their schools' doors. However, much work still needs to be done to address the academic time lost and the social and emotional impacts caused by the rapid shift to remote learning.
To better understand how to support the transition to remote learning, Lenovo spoke with UK teachers last spring about their experiences of staying connected to and engaging with their students during the lockdown. Throughout our session, we'll share their stories. Let's hear about a typical day of remote teaching from Joss, a geography teacher, Gareth, a Year 6 teacher in Surrey, and Ellie, a Year 1 teacher in Oxford.
If I walk you through my day now, what that would look like in school, it's very similar to what it was before lockdown, but also really, really different.
A typical sort of working day is we set up the tasks for the children that day. At the moment, we're using a mixture of websites. The children log in the mornings. They find the personalised to-dos for them, and they can sit down, they can work through them at their own speed and at their own rate.
8:30, I register my boys. I use my Chromebook, the school's Chromebook, because my laptop died like 2 days before lockdown. And we have a Google Meet where we have a little video chat with my boys, which is a great chance to check in with them pastorally, but also to make sure that they're up and ready to learn.
I'm no longer in the classroom teaching my class, but teaching at home through a computer, relying on technology to connect us. Technology is amazing and is really allowing us to support children in ways that I don't think we would be able to without it. Video conferencing and video calls have become the new norm. I think it's really important with devices that you have a good quality camera for these video calls, so you're not staring at a pixelated blob on your screen.
Does any of this sound familiar? What adjustments have you made to your teaching practice during the pandemic to ensure your students will be successful? Please share with us and the other participants in the chat.
At At Lenovo, we've been humbled to support educators as they challenge themselves every day to rethink, reimagine, and reinvent teaching and learning during the pandemic. They've worked tirelessly to bridge the digital divide, provide equitable learning environments, and address education continuity. Today, we'll share just a few of the many stories we are honored to be a part of. To celebrate the work of these educators and provide a roadmap for how to move forward into the next phase of innovative education in your community and across the globe. The UK teachers we just heard from are fortunate to teach in one-to-one environments. But how have communities with under-resourced schools bridged the digital divide to ensure that students have devices and Wi-Fi access so they can continue to learn while locked down? Let's travel to the Veneto region of Italy to see how one community has tackled this challenge. When schools began to close their doors in Milan, the mayor, Giuseppe Sala, began seeking support in the delivery of an efficient digital learning system. Recognizing this was a community crisis, he asked businesses and organizations to donate materials and e-learning tools to schools so that children who do not have access to devices can follow their lessons with their peers. In response to this plea, Lenovo, in partnership with Microsoft, was able to provide Milan and the town of Vo with 190 laptop PCs, helping to address the digital divide. What's more, the pandemic allowed educators in Milan to rethink the educational relationship between families and schools that further supports learning. Patrizia Furcato, administrative manager of one of the schools, shared that this initiative is an example of a real synergy between the school, the families, the social services departments, and the business world, and to which every participant has responded with an overwhelming sense of duty and commitment. She goes on to share how this experience has also impacted teachers. One teacher shared that it has empowered her to reassess her role as an educator. And now, more than ever, she sees it as her duty to ensure that all of her students can walk together on the same path of education. We're curious. Share in the chat how your community or institution has bridged the digital divide for students and families to ensure educational continuity.
At Lenovo, we realize that this kind of educational continuity is important not only because it allows for a more seamless learning experience, but also because it keeps classroom communities connected. According to research, students' connection with their teachers is one of the key determiners of academic success, which makes robust technology critical to the remote and hybrid learning experience. Let's hear from Annette, a drama and English teacher, Ellie and Joss, about how they've fostered strong relationships with their students while teaching remotely.
Teaching is about relationships. If you don't have a relationship with your students, if you don't have a relationship with your classes, it doesn't matter how wonderful the lesson is or how great you are in terms of your subject knowledge. It's immaterial. You've no relationship, you have no lesson.
It has really changed my relationship with the boys. I think in some ways it's made my relationship with them much stronger and deeper, but then I'm not with them. I'm not able to see their kind of day-to-day little things that happen. I'm not there when they fall over and hurt themselves. I'm not there when they discover something hilarious or when the first time they can tell the time. So I feel like I'm missing lots, but then I think it has made our bond stronger. I think when we are back in the classroom, we will be a real unit, a real little family.
Actually, I've had to work really hard at making sure that my instructions are clear. And I think I would be really lost without video chat, because actually being able to see the boys and have a bit of banter with them really keeps me sane. I still have my tutor groups online. We've played Pac-Man, we've played Snake. And my boys are like, "Sir, this game is so rubbish." And then in 15 minutes time, they're like, "Oh, this game is great. I can't believe I haven't beat you yet, sir." Because obviously I beat them at every single game we've played.
Young children, I think, are amazing. They make me laugh every day. You never quite know what's going to come out of their mouths, and they always keep me on my toes.
Well, I love working with young people. I think they're funny, they're brilliant, they give you so much energy, they say hilariously insightful things.
Now we'll travel to the United States, where teachers in an Indiana school district were focused on remote learning before it became a necessity, and leveraged that experience to engage and connect with their students once the pandemic began.
For the past few years, Randolph Eastern School Corporation in Union City, Indiana, had been implementing a distance learning program to support education continuity in the event of inclement weather and to provide teachers time for professional development. As part of their distance learning efforts, teachers and students were utilizing Lenovo's LandSchool Air, a cloud-based classroom management software, to effectively support, manage, and maintain student engagement. When schools closed in the spring due to the pandemic, the district was able to continue using LandSchool Air, allowing teachers to stay connected with their students outside of school. Combined with frequent class meetups and Google Hangouts, LandSchool Air allowed teachers to not only provide instructional continuity, but also maintain communication with their most vulnerable students. Carly Brandstetter, a 7th and 8th grade science teacher in the district, shared that using LandSchool Air has given her a way to stay connected with students who may otherwise have become disengaged while learning from home. With the help of LandSchool Air, she has been able to keep up with kids she would have lost connection with otherwise. With LandSchool Air, teachers are able to view their students' computer screens, allowing them to seamlessly send websites out to students and group students by interest or academic need. Students can also engage with their teacher using the raise hand feature, as well as stay connected in and out of class via the interactive chat feature. To help schools with the transition to distance learning, last spring Lenovo donated over $1.2 million in complimentary LandSchool licenses to schools and districts in the U.S. and Canada. At Lenovo, we know the impact goes so much deeper than helping students stay on track academically. It's about giving kids a sense of normalcy and connection with the caring adults they desperately need in these uncertain times. We'd like to hear from you in the chat. How have you and the teachers in your school stayed connected to learners during the pandemic?
Keeping students engaged remotely and meeting their needs can be really challenging. But as we'll hear from another UK educator, Karen in Oxfordshire, technology has the potential to provide new and equitable learning opportunities for students than a more traditional learning model would.
I think the relationship with children has become enriched. There are some children who struggle to communicate their needs in a busy classroom, and those children have had access to their teacher and can become more visible. They're able to have one-to-one with their teacher multiple times a day. And I just had more time to build up the relationships with children and their parents. A really great example of a child's work since teaching remotely is a child who I teach who is autistic and finds it really hard to express himself in his learning. I asked the children to describe Diagon Alley from Harry Potter as part of an English task, and he would have struggled to have done that in the classroom, but remotely he made Diagon Alley on Minecraft and then videoed it, and then sent me on a tour of his video, and the descriptive language that he used and his engagement in that activity was something that I hadn't seen before. So it's just amazing.
Karen's stories about her students remind us that all students have different needs and learn in different ways. The more flexible the classroom, the more likely educators will meet the needs of all learners. The last story we'll share comes from Roma Trey University, where they've created flexible learning environments during the pandemic. Founded in 1992, Roma Trey University is a young and rapidly growing institution. Due to COVID-19 and the need for social distancing, the university had to reduce the number of seats per classroom by 50%, which led to the implementation of hybrid learning. The university's telecommunications manager, Paolo Cursi, and his team worked closely with Lenovo to transform 220 classrooms with our hybrid classroom solution, the ThinkSmart Hub 500 Microsoft Teams Room System. The solution brings together robust audio, 2 cameras, and collaborative software into a single solution to create a flexible learning space. This allows all students to have equitable access and a seamless experience, whether they're learning inside or outside the classroom. Let's see it in action. The response from faculty and students has been overwhelmingly positive. The features they've appreciated most are that lessons are recorded for access anytime, anywhere. Students and professors from across the globe can connect. And students can actively collaborate during class, whether they're at home or on campus. So what does all this digital acceleration mean for your schools and students? Let's hear from our UK educators again.
I think the biggest challenge is just still how far we are away from being back to normal. And so with that, it's just the keeping on, I think, is the biggest challenge. To stay motivated, to stay enthusiastic, to set a really good example for our pupils is going to be tricky, because this is not what I signed up for. It's not what I enjoy doing. I know I'm struggling at the moment, but actually I can still really spark that enthusiasm and help young people have a passion for something and push themselves and stretch themselves, which of course is the reason I got into teaching anyway.
We've already talked about using online learning in the classroom so you can be in 2 places at once effectively. We've also talked about using online learning and remote learning as a platform for homework, presenting homework to the children, and also as a way of sharing the children's work with the parents. I think this will continue.
There's lots that I've learnt through this period. I think just how amazing technology is and how vital it is. If this had happened 20 years ago, there's no way that education would have been able to continue in the same way that it has. So to teach through the screen using sharing your screen, I think is just amazing, and we're very lucky to be able to do it.
We agree with Ellie. And at Lenovo, we feel lucky to be able to support educators as they keep on keeping on now and as they innovate into the future. We've really enjoyed highlighting how educators have innovated to support students despite these challenging times. Now we'd like to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect on your response to all this digital acceleration. 2 questions for you. What are you most proud of as you reflect on the past several months with your students or the teachers you support? And what strategies will you keep as you create your roadmap into this spring and the next academic year?
As you continue to share your ideas, we just want to say thank you for all you do every day for every student. We're also happy to answer questions at this time.